Okie dokie, Raf. It says that we're live, so welcome along, and thank you so much for being okay with me surprising you with this live aspect. So to introduce yourself, can you please tell us who you are, where you're from, and what you're doing right now?
Sure. My name is Rafael Zaya Franco, and I was born in Colombia. Right now, I am in Halifax, in Canada, which is where we live. We have an apartment here with my wife, Rachel, and we both work in television. She's a producer, and I'm a director most of the time.
So we haven't caught up for a little while, and considering I know you've actually seen inside of our Roaming Income Club where we lay out the different types of income that's available to be location independent. But what I added in there was a section for kind of like, let's call it offline or old school in comparison to the online. And
Right.
I know that you dabble in the online stuff with some side hustles and stuff as well, but
Mhm.
because you guys have got such incredible professions, you're super creative, you've got this finger into the industry that I guess you want to stay up to date with. Is it fair to say that you guys kind of do seasonal work, because you don't work year round, do you?
No, we don't. Usually in television, the television is a contract-based industry. So you can have a contract that is 1 day, 1 week, 1 month, 1 year. Usually goes to a year and a half. We work in animation and we do children's television, and usually the contracts are about a year long, year and a half long. So we become part of a show, and then we continue working on it until it's finished. And then when it's all wrapped up, all put together, all the episodes are ready to be aired, then we say goodbye, and then we go house sitting for a few months. So that is the system that we have going. We've had that going for a few years now. Yeah.
All right. So you haven't always had your own place, though, have you? Was there a little bit of time when you were completely nomadic and only kind of living where you needed to go?
Yes, that was well, we've done that a couple of times. I think that because we have acquaintances down in South America, we have been able to stay with them every now and then. But most of the time, because we are pretty organized and very methodical about the things that we do, we line up house sits for long term. We don't really have house sits for any shorter than maybe a month. And when we line them up, we line them up 6 months in advance, even a year in advance. So when we are nomadic, it's because we have lined up several house sits, but because they're long, we don't really feel nomadic because we have a home for several months at a time. So yeah, that's how we like it.
And do you always accept contracts in Canada, or do you work elsewhere as well?
When I work freelance, when I do short contracts, I get clients from anywhere in the world. But when we work at a studio, we come here to Canada to work, which is actually what we're going to be doing next year.
Okay, so thus choosing to get an apartment in Halifax, is it?
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
Okay. All right. So what have you got coming up? When does that contract start? Do you have any house sitting time coming up? We haven't caught up for ages, so this is a little personal catch up as well.
Well, we were 6 months in Colombia this past year. Then we were 2 months in France, which was amazing. And then we came back last year, and we started with another contract that took us to the end of this year. And then we are back on another contract Rach is starting in a week and a half. So we literally have no time at all for house sitting, which has given us the opportunity to reevaluate the strategies that we use for house sitting, and interestingly enough, to have a look at the progress that has taken place in the industry. When you're working full time with a project, we're dedicated to that. We're just in that project consistently. And it, because it takes so long, relative to short-term house sits, things move along in technology and in house sitting very quickly. So by the time we have some time that we don't take because don't do house sits on, then we just take that time to just sort of look at the industry and see what's been happening lately. And there have been a few changes that have benefited the style of house sits that we like. For instance, we have been able to solidify relationships, almost personal relationships, really, with the people that we have done house sits for before. Because we have the time and we have a steady home, we're not looking for house sits. We're not looking for referrals. We just kind of can develop a relationship, emails back and forth about what we're doing. We take pictures, send pictures, ask them about their family, their kids, their pets. And we solidify relationships little by little and very naturally, as if we were closer to each other physically. Mm-hmm. Yeah, as if we were neighbors, exactly. So that has a very organic way of developing, and it's very pleasant for both them and us. And from that, we've met a few other people online. Yeah, we should introduce you to so and so who has a house next to us, and they leave for the summer, and blah 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 blah. So that's just another way, but it's not as rushed and as it would be if we were looking for our next house in our next house at our next
Okay, so considering that you're pretty much doing back-to-back contracts, which, when we first met was definitely not your path. You would do a contract and then, take some time off and etc.
Right, yeah.
So at the end of this next...
we're doing that.
Yeah, so at the end of this next one, then are you going to take a longer break, or just is it completely, are you that methodical that or are you going to go, where's the work?
We're probably going to take about 3 to 6 months after this one. So that's going to be 2021. And yeah, that's the plan. We don't know where.
All right. So this is where I wanted to just kind of, I guess, brainstorm with you as well. And, with the topic being that either seasonal or contract, like short-term contract work, it's really quite funny because I took on my very, very first house sit in Australia was before I even knew that house sitting was available internationally, was because of a short-term contract that I accepted in Sydney. And Sydney's accommodation is just astronomical. So to take a 5-week house sit there really made the work viable. I went down and I could work and, earn enough. One of our House Sitting Academy members actually, she is actually a full-time professor with the university. And because she does marine biology study, etc., she goes quite around the world a lot to different places. And even though she gets a stipend, she'll actually do house sitting, find the house sits to kind of keep the work going as well. So just the idea of contract work or seasonal work, I don't know. Do you think it's kind of depends on the industry, or how hard is it to find those kind of jobs?
Well, I think that those jobs are when you think about them as jobs, they're relatively easy to get because you can just hop on Upwork or Fiverr or whatever and just get a few contracts and get a few bucks. Those are generally urgent, relatively low paying, and there's a lot of effort that comes into it because you have to find your clients and do a lot of homework and sell yourself, basically.
So you've done that sort of freelancing, which I guess is still location independent, because if you're doing that kind of freelance work online, or getting your clients from anywhere and being able to work and then deliver. But what about the and I guess I'm saying this because I do want to have another, maybe a panel discussion about freelancing itself, because that is a whole other thing. But from that kind of working where, in your case, you have to go to the studio in Halifax, and You know, this other member, she has to go to say, you know, damn it, I have to go to Australia for however many months, you know, like to do work, but she can still find house sits. And then there's the in between as well, like the what do you do in between?
Well, yeah, correct. Yeah. It's true. So I agree with that, and I think that that is precisely how it works. I think that uh, you have to have some a life adjustment in a way. For instance, if you are a professional in engineering or some kind of high paying, relatively high paying profession, and you have had a trajectory that allows you to have relationships with people that will refer you to other people, or you just find yourself a contract job that is online or something like that, those those jobs will more than likely be able to pay for a lot if your lifestyle is one of it's similar to a house sitter, just because you have barely any possessions, no debt, cheap transportation, you have good, healthy eating habits, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So your expenses are very low. So if you are able to work for 6 months or a year or even less on a contract, and then budget out your time afterwards according to how much you earn, it's a proactive way of just basically banking your money so that you're able to house it for this long or this long or this long.
Yeah, and it's whether your lifestyle is save up the pennies, then go travel completely free of any responsibilities, then go and save up the pennies, and I guess that kind of, it is another version of a nomadic lifestyle that, you know, we don't often talk about within the house sitting community. But yeah, it's sort of fascinating. It takes me back even to in my 20s. I did a couple of ski seasons, like snow seasons, and most people are going, what? Australia actually has ski resorts? It's like, yes, they're not very big, but they are there. And I worked 2 seasons there, and it's kind of like one of those things with, wow, if I knew house sitting existed, I could have done that in the off season.
Yeah.
But I met like full-blown ski bunnies that would work a season in Australia, then come to the Northern Hemisphere and work a season in Canada or in Austria or wherever.
Yeah.
That, of course, comes with work visa situations when you're doing it that way. But even just to do that seasonal tourism type of thing, whether it be weather season or you know, the tourism heat months, you know, there's certainly parts of the world where tourism is hotter. A friend of ours does the cruise season in New Zealand, so when the cruise boats come in from October through to March, you know, she works every weekend, well, every time a cruise boat comes in. So that kind of seasonal work is, I guess, if it's a type of thing you love doing, then I don't know.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that it's, you know, house sitting styles and nomadic life, they have become very personal. Gladly, I think that the lifestyle has started to develop into an industry now. So there are best practices and the things that we should and should not do, and it's very particular to the individual. So it's I've seen less of a radical differentiation and separation from the traditional 9 to 5, and just instead of just putting that away and going completely nomadic 100%, which was what happened in the past, you know, I would say half decade, even before then. There was a shift, and people wanted to be just completely nomadic 100%, just on principle.
And do you know of many people that have stopped that? Like, we're certainly starting to see people that have maybe did it for 5 or 6 years, and they're starting to.
Yeah. And it's, I've known of a couple. You know, they're not necessarily friends of mine, but more of acquaintances, and it's basically becomes, you know, we're human after all, and we go through changes. You know, we go through anywhere from relationship changes or personal desire changes. I've done that and I want to do this now. Or they have a kid. It's just, we're human. We're human. So the decision to go 100% nomadic, or not, it's not as radical anymore.
That's a good call, actually. Yeah, it's not such a big deal. It's sort of, I guess, there's more and more people now in people's awareness that live a version of, like you say, there's so many different versions of. Yeah,
it's true. And it boils down to the fact that, particularly for us house sitters, we are professionals that provide a service first and foremost. And we also happen to be nomadic or half nomadic or not nomadic or whatever other adjective or adverb you want to use for your own professional presentation and your brand. It's up to you, really. But it boils down to a service. We're caring for somebody's home, we're caring for somebody's pet, and that is number one. It doesn't matter how you make your money, it doesn't matter where you live. What our audience and our clients care for is just being happy that you're there. That's
being there for the kids.
That's really it.
The fur babies.
So when you think about that from the perspective of the homeowner or the pet owner, they couldn't care less about how you survive or what kind of life you have. It's all up to you. So
well, that makes me ask the question then. So you have done some of your contract work when you were house sitting. When you have to go to a day job as such, has that had any effect on because when we apply, we're like, oh, we work online, so we'll be home with your pets all day. In most cases, that's positive, but
yeah, no, that's an excellent question. So what happens is that we, as service providers, we compartmentalize our time exclusively. So if we're house sitting, we're only house sitting. And if we're working, we're only working.
Okay.
For people that are 100% nomadic, that there are tons of compromises that have to be made. And for us, that really didn't work very well. And
but you did give it a go, though.
Oh yes, and we tried. And just because of the kind of people that we are, a friend of mine was telling me that he has a full-time job. His wife has a full-time job as well, and they manage 4 homes with roommates, and each home has, I don't know, several rooms. And this is a student's housing, and he's the most relaxed individual you could ever possibly be. I could not imagine how to even handle one. And he says, well, it's not a stress problem, it's a management problem. And there are some people that find that so easy. But we found out that having 2 responsibilities at the same time in the same location, and managing one client, house sitting client, and communicating with them, and telling them about their house sit and caring for their pets and all that stuff, and caring for our client that is providing us with income that is demanding, well, not demanding, but that we have to keep up.
Need your attention, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. That was for us. Some other people can handle it, of course.
Well, I guess the other side of it is you're talking about both of you, and in some cases, like Nat's sister, her and her husband, when they first went to Tasmania, they completely were nomadic, no work, just travelled around for about I don't know, 8-9 months or so. And then he got a job in South Hobart.
Yeah.
So for the last 2.5 years, they have house sat exclusively in the area that he can actually get to his job at. So within the couple, he goes to the job, she house sits. So it's
Wow.
sort of, it works, then they can kind of, divide that out.
That's
But yeah, it's sort of amazing. Somewhere as small as Tasmania can actually provide, over 2 years worth of house sitting just in one region. Is pretty amazing.
We should go there next. Yeah. And there are just so many places that we still want to go, but we have, plus, if we had that kind of situation, which we actually were looking for that was Sydney. There was an animation studio that we were chatting with in Sydney, and we were considering doing house sits and working there as well. We researched for a little bit. That job never panned out. This was maybe a year and a half ago. But we researched it, and the amount of time that it was taking us to find a house sit, to talk to the clients, to do all that stuff, it was just too much for us.
Yeah.
We like to keep things very, very manageable, very simple, and have a lot of time for ourselves. So that's the decision that we made in that sense. There are tons of things available, and I think that what we have found out in the past few years is that it requires you as a house sitter to find out what kind of personality you have and your threshold of tolerance with responsibilities and things like those. And it's a personal thing, really, really very personal.
Yeah. Well, when you were doing sort of the time off and house sits, were you doing any other sort of creative projects or freelancing stuff on the side? Like what you've been into a few different things.
Yes. I was doing a lot of stock photography. I was doing stock video, and it's mostly for myself. So I don't just, again, I said that I just do house sit, meaning that we don't decide to work as well as doing the house sit, but
creative projects are different. Like
totally. I'm shooting almost every day. And I am accumulating media and going through it and making sure that it's either, commercial or editorial or stuff like that. And I put it somewhere, and that generates a little bit of income. Or Rach is, we create a new show, and then we shoot it, and then we just put it on Amazon Prime or something like that. But we have decided not to rely on that income, because what we found out is that the amount of time for us in our profession, which is media, the amount of time required to create something that is amazing and that is television level, and put together research, create it, direct it, edit it, etc. It's really, really, really long. And again, just if we want to do that and house sit, we couldn't do it. If we want to do that by itself, then we needed to not house sit and not work and create that alone, which was fruitful in a sense a few years back, because it got us to certain places and it got us known with certain studios. But we have learned to compartmentalize things very, very well, and it seems to be working for us right now. And an interesting thing has been happening as well, which is that we are aging, as we all are, but so are the homeowners. And as they age, their priorities change as well. For instance, they care a lot more for their pets. They care a lot more about their health. They care a lot more about different places that they haven't seen, so they travel more. And we can fill in those gaps. And because we're developing slowly, very slowly, we're developing these relationships. They, for instance, I was going to say a friend of ours, because they are friends now, but they were clients first. She told us that they were planning on selling their home and then buying another one in this location at this time, and would we be able to house it for the summer? And this is like 2022.
Wow.
So yeah,
and you can start to plan your work around those sorts of things.
Yeah, exactly. So it's it's a lifestyle that we started, that it was just ignited, and we were very fast and strong to go into it. We got our profile set. We did a lot of small house sits. We got a lot of referrals. Well, everything you taught us. You and Nat, you taught us all that stuff. Thank you very much. And we solidified those things, and then we did a few houses that were long term, and everything is just sort of settling in now, because we did everything that we needed to do to kick it on, to get it started in a very, very good way. And now we're reaping the benefits of it, which is
look, and I mean, I guess everything is about I love the word qualia, which basically means you never really know something until you have a direct experience of it. So you guys have gone out and gone grab, like take all these different versions of working 6 months, having 6 months off, making it all nomadic, making it part-time nomadic, taking longer contracts, taking, referral or repeat house sets. So it's all just ironing itself out to kind of go, well, we've tried all these things. Now we've had a direct experience. We know what it is that we do and don't want.
Yeah, it's kind of like being a teenager and trying out all these different jobs and finding out what resonates for you. And if you have a partner, what resonates for you both.
Yeah, and from the roaming income side of things, it's probably more just a conversation around getting creative to start with. So you've mentioned that your particular profession and creative talents require more time as such to go in if you're wanting to get to that television quality of earning an income. Could take you 9, 10, 12 months worth of work in order to even see the first kind of dollar coming out of it, versus say, that freelancing thing, like you say, taking on a job or, and in the Roaming Income Club, we talk a lot about having that leveraged or even working towards, whether it be a side hustle, working towards that passive or residual recurring income, so that when you do take time off from freelancing or contracts or whatever, there's a little bit dripping in, and it sounds like your photography and your stock footage and stuff has been doing that on the side. But it's more than anything there is just so much to choose from now, and I really like the way that you said it's not that big of a deal anymore, because there's more and more people doing it.
It's no longer what? Are you a nomad? Either you're crazy, or how are you doing it? I want to do it. And it's no longer that. It's oh, okay, well, cool.
No, I know somebody who does that. Yeah.
Oh yeah, I have a friend. Yeah, they did it for a couple of years and they had a great time. And what are they doing now? No, they're doing this other thing.
Well, I've got your website up here, so to definitely go along and learn about some of your projects and see some of your amazing talent on display. I did actually show this up here as well, because you did have a little bit of input into Vanessa planning the conference, just with regards to how they could possibly get recordings, and they did it. They were able to record the 2 days. So I'm just putting this up here because a lot of what you've talked about with regards to the different ways of house sitting, the different ways of being a nomad, the different ways of earning income was kind of really, really nicely showcased throughout the whole conference. And I can tell you that the speakers were absolutely TED Talk quality. They were amazing. Not me, but the others were definitely. So if anybody who sees this now wants to get a copy of the conference recordings, I'll actually give you access to the Roaming Income Club, because we've been talking about that today as well. So that'll be thrown in for you if anyone does want to do that. But to see what's in the Roaming Income Club, you can go along and have a look at the list of everything there. This video will get added in as well. But main thing is ZayaFrost.com. What is with the Frost?
Well, Zaya is my middle name, and Frost is Rachel's middle name.
Okay.
Yeah.
Nice.
Exactly.
I wasn't sure it was going to have something to do with Nova Scotia or living in
So,
Canada.
some kind of refrigeration service that we yeah.
Super
No,
cool.
we've incorporated some of our house sitting education, speaking of videos and all the things that over the years I've been able to learn from you, from Vanessa, from the Roman Income Club, from well, the community, really. And one of the things that we decided to do was to actually on the website put it as just a little bit of a blurb on a service that says, we are, because we have traveled so much, we have developed relationships with service providers on location. For example, if we go somewhere in Mexico and we meet somebody that shoots video, or we meet somebody that rents out a stage or that provides catering for shoots, we shake hands, we communicate with them, we make them our friends and our colleagues, and the productions that we offer can be on location because of those opportunities that have been created because of house building. And also, we can provide now location scouting services. So if somebody is doing a shoot or wants to see about this amazing place that is in Belize, and we happen to be in Belize, or we take a special trip for them, we go shoot it, do some scouting, take some photos, take some video, meet some people, get a listing of the vendors that they will need for the project. And while we're doing that, we can house it a week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks. So it's just a matter of incorporating everything all together.
My creative cogs are kicking over here going,
I knew it.
I can see an income opportunity. Like, say, for anybody who's sort of going, I wouldn't mind some sort of roaming income while I'm living this lifestyle.
Yeah.
Well, what about the house sitters that take on, or at least get to know the Airbnbs or the small guest houses, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah, totally.
And let's say, let's use Mexico as the example.
Sure.
So it's like you get to talk and get to speak to these people and say, hey, look, there's got an amazing place here. Like, are you on kind of the sites you need to be on? Mm-hmm. What about having a little promotional video? We know we have a friend who can organize to get people here to record this. And it's sort of like that just introduction referral kind of thing, like, keep your eyes and ears open. There's always little businesses that need promotion.
Absolutely. And interestingly enough, speaking of integrating everything that you love into what you do, I have been a travel agent for about a year now. And travel has become this very nomadic industry because they call them home-based agents as well. So you have to research a little bit and just plug in with a host agency and learn a lot and study a lot and pay your dues. But you can become an agent with these agencies and pay your yearly fee. But if you visit a place and you love it, you can build a tour around it and sell that tour. Because you know the people that will, let's just say that you have a great time in, I don't know, Cancun, and you meet somebody who's doing a scuba tour. And
actually, no, let's talk closer to your home. Sure. We're going to Medellin for the first time next year. So there you go. That's pretty much like straight off the bat. You can tell me what I need to do.
Okay, so let's just say that you go to Medellin. Okay, so you could, okay, this is great. So just imagine if you go to Medellin, you have Medellin is like a Chiang Mai. It's a place for nomads. So for instance, off of the top of my head, if you say, okay, I want to meet people that have workspaces, for example. So I'm going to go there and say hello. I'm going to go there and say hello. I'm going to meet the top 5 owners of the workspaces that provide, that have a great internet, great restaurants around, or even a chef inside, and then some Airbnb places around it, right? And then you say, okay, well, How about we build a tour that is, let's just say 2 weeks, 2 weeks of a working holiday for you and your spouse or your partner or your colleagues. And then you build a tour for 10 people, and each tour costs this much. And then you put on 15% on top of that. And then you promote that. And that's your own little tour, your own little product. Hello. Hello. You seem to be having technical difficulties. Where did Jody go? I don't know. Is she here? Is she there? Is she over there? Is she under the computer? Maybe. I don't know. Where is she? Who knows? Maybe there's an income opportunity there. Let's look for Jody. Hello?